it might be a long video. So, hey guys, today, okay, let's try to get a little bit of body in our hair. She's still slightly wet, it's whatever. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the finally somewhat long awaited second part of my labor and delivery video. I didn't film much when I was in the hospital, so if you haven't seen that video, you should still go check it out because I did film some in the hospital and it has a little bit of footage of what I'm going to be explaining in this video. So we are just going to start from the beginning because I am holding a baby, so I don't have time to be writing down notes and checking on notes. So let's just do this. So we're gonna start from the beginning. We'll start with my last prenatal appointment. So I had my last prenatal appointment like 3 days before I went into the hospital, and I didn't get to see my doctor because I'm twirling because I'm trying to rock her so she stays asleep. But anyway, I didn't get to see my doctor because my doctor was actually on vacation, and so I saw another doctor who I actually did like when I first saw her, so I was fine seeing another doctor. When we got there, it was just one of those normal, you listen to the baby's heartbeat for 20 minutes, and she wanted to check and see how dilated I was, which I wasn't dilated at all at this point. And by this point, we were about 38 weeks and like 38 and 5 days, I'll say. And I was not dilated at all. Like, she could barely even get a fingertip in. So after that, she asked me if we had a date that we were supposed to go to the hospital, and of course we didn't yet because my doctor had been on vacation. So she asked if we wanted her to schedule us, and I told her yes, she can go ahead and schedule us. Now mind you, I was thinking that when she scheduled us, she was going to schedule us later. Like, I wasn't thinking it was going to be 2 days later and I'd be going to the hospital. I thought like a week, maybe a week and a half. So when she came back, she told us that she scheduled us to go to the hospital September 18th, which was only 3 days later from when we were at the doctor at this point. So that made me kind of nervous just because I didn't expect it to be that soon. However, I was definitely prepared to meet my baby that soon, so I didn't have a problem with that at all. I just went home and told my mom and everybody that I needed to tell that I would be going into the hospital. I had to schedule my sister to come and take care of Binks while we were there because she did tell us that being induced isn't a fast process like I thought it was. Like, I thought we would go into the hospital, they would break our water, and then like hours later we'd be having a baby. But she said that just the inducing process can take a couple of days. Fast forward to the 18th, we were scheduled to go into the hospital at 7:30 a.m. So we woke up about, as you saw in the video, I woke up about 6-ish, got ready, you know, made sure I had everything packed in my bags that I needed. And then we headed to the hospital. We did get something to eat. We just got some Burger King, something quick and easy. Then we headed to the hospital. As I showed in that video, the hospital room was actually very nice. I didn't expect it to be that big. Both of our rooms, in my opinion, were nice. I think Eli had a significant amount of sleeping space and just space to do him. The bed was okay. I mean, it's a hospital bed, so I mean, how comfortable is it really going to be? But when we got there, of course, we got checked in and everything. They were actually already waiting on us. So as soon as I walked up, she was like, "Oh, you're in Malaysia? Yes, we were waiting for you." Took me directly to the room. I got undressed, so I didn't end up needing the clothes that I packed, really honestly, until it was time to go. So that was something to be noted. If you are getting induced, you basically are going to stay in the hospital gown the whole time. So if you are wanting to pack something comfortable for you, I would say maybe just look for a hospital gown type thing and pack that. So we got into the hospital gown And it was maybe only 20 minutes later they got us started. So they came in, took my blood pressure, got her monitors on to monitor her heartbeat and everything. They got my IV in because I did have to take some antibiotics because I had, like, I don't remember what it's called. If I can think of it, I'll insert it here somewhere. But it's nothing that would hurt me, but it could transfer to the baby if she, while pushing her out, and it could make her sick. But it's nothing really bad. It's just a bacteria that they said all women have. I think it was strep B, something like that. But so they got me hooked up to the IVs and everything, and they started me on the Cytotec. That's what it is. They started me on the Cytotec, which is a very, very small pill, like very small. I'm talking about the smallest birth control pill. Like maybe even take your birth control pill and split that in half. That is how small the pill was, which I didn't have a problem with because I actually have trouble taking pills. So I definitely didn't have any issue with how small the pill was. So the pill was a pill that you take every 4 hours. And honestly, I don't think this pill was doing anything for me. I was having some contractions, but they weren't anything bad. Like, they were so minimal contractions that I wasn't even feeling them, honestly. You could see them on the monitor, but it wasn't causing me any pain. And we did that for about the full day. And when I tell you that I'm pretty sure all while I was taking those pills for the whole first 24 hours, I didn't get dilated at all. I got like to 1.5 centimeters dilated, I think. So they decided that they wanted to try doing the balloon. And that part, you guys, was one of the worst things for me. They tried to do the balloon 3 times and they couldn't get it. No, they tried to do it twice, not 3 times. They tried to do it twice, and both times they couldn't get it. So the first time they tried was when I was only 1 centimeter dilated, and she said my cervix just wasn't having it, and it was causing me so much pain. Like, I was literally crying. It was causing so much pain, you guys. And the first time that they did it or tried to do it, I bled so much afterwards. Like, it was crazy. I bled so much into the toilet and then just wiping, and I would just be bleeding onto like the pad they had under me on the bed. I bled so much, but the bleeding did only last for a couple hours. So after they tried the first time and it didn't work, they just continued to give me the Cytotec pills, and we did that until into the next day. So about, I want to say like early in the morning the next day, they tried to do the balloon again. I think she said I was about 2 centimeters dilated, or like 1.5 to 2 centimeters dilated. So she thought that she would be able to get the balloon into me. So at this point, she was able to get the balloon in, and there was still pain. Like, it was pain, very much discomfort and pain. So she was able to get the balloon in me, but my cervix was pushing it right back out as soon as they blew it up. So after that, and her seeing how much pain I was in, she just decided that she was going to stop that, and she wasn't going to try again, which I was not mad about, because the whole experience was just so discomfortable, and the fact that they kept trying to do it was just very irritating, and the fact that it wasn't working was just very irritating. Also, I wasn't dilating as fast as they thought I would be dilating on the pills they were giving me, so that was also very irritating. So they then decided that they would just start me on the Pitocin, I hope I'm saying it right, which goes in through the IV. So that one, I believe, was every 2 hours, or was it still every 4 hours? I believe it was every 2 hours, if not every hour. she would come in and up the medicine, see how the contractions were doing and everything. So when I first started me on that medicine, I didn't really have any issues. I was having some more contractions that were a bit more painful, but it wasn't like unmanageable until about, I want to say like after breakfast, maybe like around 11 o'clock. They kept upping the medicine. So eventually she came in and she said that they were having trouble getting my baby's heartbeat. She wasn't doing well with the medicine, so they took a break from the medicine for like a 30-minute break from the medicine, and I think that actually ended up helping the situation. So am I looking at a dog? So anyway, when they came back, she put me back on the medicine. I hope I'm remembering all of this in sequence, because this is where the tricky part comes up. So they put me back on the medicine, and I think taking me off the medicine and putting me back on the medicine kind of like sped things up. So when they put me back on the medicine, they put me back on the medicine, and she came in eventually, and she asked me if I wanted to start getting the epidural, because I did decide that I wanted to get the epidural, but I wanted to wait until the pain was like where I couldn't bear it. And at this point, I wasn't to where the pain was to where I couldn't bear it, but I was close. So when she told me that it would be like an hour and a half before, I got the epidural and started feeling the epidural, I was just like, you know what? Yes, schedule me for that epidural. Let's just get it over with, get the epidural in, and I'm ready to be fine and not in pain and everything. So they scheduled the epidural, and maybe 10 minutes later the guy came to do the epidural. And when I tell you, this was another part of the bad experience for me. So the first guy who tried to do my epidural, first of all, I was already nervous because I'm very afraid of needles. I'm not good with needles, and there's a lot of scare around the epidural, saying that you can lose your ability to walk and everything. So I was already very scared, and I didn't know that they had to send out my husband, so when they came in and told me that he had to leave, that's immediately also scared me, and I immediately started crying as soon as he left the room. So that's, plus having contractions, just probably put me in a bad position, in a bad mindset for the epidural. So when the guy started doing the epidural, he did it 3 times. He would numb me and start doing the epidural, and I was having a lot of discomfort while he was doing or trying to do the epidural. He did it 3 different times, and he still couldn't do it. So that was just a very irritating process. So eventually the nurses just told him, I needed a little break because I was crying, I was shaking, and it's already hard for him to do the epidural if you're still. So I just needed a little break from the process. So he took the break. He said he was going to call his boss in to come and see if she can get it in. So they sent Eli in, and Eli was very upset that I was going through everything I was going through, and it was honestly so sweet of him. I'm sorry, you guys. My voice is like getting kind of shaky because this is the most I've talked since she was born. So he went and got his boss. Again, they had to send Eli out, and this time it went so smoothly. I didn't even know that she was doing it. I did feel the numbing medicine that they numbed me with, but I did not feel her do the epidural at all, and she literally did it within a minute. It was the best thing. So if I can give you any advice regarding the epidural, is to, I'm sure you can't like ask them specifically who can do it, but if you have someone who knows what they're doing, the epidural is not at all bad as, you know, people make it seem, and it's really not painful if you have the right person doing it. Now, if you don't have the right person doing it, it can be painful, it can be uncomfortable, and it can be very irritating, that it would make you almost rather deal with the pain of birth. It's just really depends on how well trained the person who is giving you your medicine or doing your procedures is. Believe me on that. So after they have the epidural in, I actually started feeling it pretty fast. I know they said it would take 45 minutes, but I started feeling my epidural literally within the like maybe first 5 minutes, because I ended up having a contraction, and the nurse was asking me, you know, are you feeling this contraction? And I'm like, I'm having a contraction. I was able to feel like a little bit of like pressure or discomfort from the contraction, but I didn't know that it was like a contraction because it was a pretty bad contraction. So I have the epidural in, I'm fine. I end up taking a nap for a couple hours, and during this time they are upping the Pitocin medicine. So Pitocin, I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but during this time they are continuing upping the medicine. So when I wake up, I am feeling the contractions. Like, my epidural was in probably for about, I don't know, like maybe 5 hours. Like, it's probably around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at this point. And mind you, you can't eat when you start the Pitocin, and especially after you get the epidural, you cannot eat. So I was just eating ice chips this whole time. So mind you, I also had a pee bag. I got a catheter, because after they give you the epidural, they have to give you a catheter. So that was not a painful process due to the fact that I had the epidural. It was actually like very bearable. It just makes you feel very numb. So I could feel them doing something, but it's like if your leg falls asleep, you know? So at this point, when she came in and checked me, I was about 4 centimeters dilated. So I was starting to feel my contractions, and I was pretty sure that I was not supposed to be, since I had the epidural. So I would be pressing the epidural button, and even if you press the button, it only allows you to press it every 30 minutes where you actually can get some medicine out. But even if I would press it, I wasn't feeling the medicine. Like, when you get the epidural, it feels really cold going in to you. So I would have been able to feel the medicine coming into me, but it did not feel like any medicine was coming to me, and I was feeling my contractions. So it got to the point where I was feeling my contractions. I needed to keep like sitting up, changing my position, as well as I was feeling very nauseous, which is something that can happen when you have the epidural. So I felt so nauseous, and probably mixed in with me being able to feel my contractions, I threw up all over the floor. Like, when I tell you all over the floor I threw up, I tried to tell them, like, look, I feel nauseous, I need a bag, but they wasn't moving fast enough. So she had actually tried to give me some medicine that would stop you from feeling nauseous, and at first it worked, but she wasn't moving fast enough. So I ended up just throwing up all over the floor, you guys. It was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing, and then having to have somebody else come in and clean it up, and you know, they're just I mean, it probably wasn't embarrassing for them as it was for me, but for me personally, it was just so embarrassing. But I surprisingly just threw up so easy. I never in my life throw up that easy. I threw up all over the floor. So after that, after throwing up all over the floor, she gave me some more medicine that was supposed to make you, you know, stop having to throw up or feeling nauseous. And I think it worked for maybe an hour, but it didn't last long. Okay, sorry, I had to take a break so I could order some food, but I'm pretty sure I left off like after I puked. So yeah, I threw up all over the floor, and they had to come in and clean it up. Embarrassing. The nurse gave me some more medicine through my IV that was supposed to stop me feeling nauseous. And I think it worked for a little bit, but not that long. I think I ended up taking like maybe a 10 to 20 minute nap. When I woke up again, I was in a lot of pain, you guys. The nurse came in, she checked me, she said I was 6 centimeters dilated, but I was in a lot of pain. Not really, it was pain. Yeah, it was pain. I was feeling my contractions a lot, and I was just feeling a lot of pressure. I could literally tell you when I was having a contraction, when the contraction was leaving, and I had the epidural. So it was very nice, of course, having Eli there, because he was just able to just talk to me and kind of try to distract me. So eventually, you know, he would just sit by the side of the bed, and I would just be telling him, oh, there's a contraction coming. I could tell him if there was going to be a big contraction, whether it was going to be a small contraction, when it was over, when it was at the height, or if it never ended, because some of my contractions, they would go low, like you would start feeling the contraction, right? And then the contraction can go high to where it's like peak contracting, and that's where like it's very, 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 very painful, and then the contraction will slowly start to go down to where until it ends. But my contractions would go down, but then they would stop. Like they wouldn't stop, they would just go down but keep going, but never fully stop. It would just be low pain until the pain got high again. So mind you, I had the epidural, so I couldn't of course, like say, oh, I'm ready for the epidural. I had the epidural already. So I just kept trying to administer the medicine, and I could not feel for the life of me that the medicine was working. So eventually it got so bad. So the nurse would come in and she would be like, oh, do you want me to sit you up? And so they would sit me up, like move the bed up to where I was like literally like I'm sitting up right now in the chair. And it was just very bad. Like the last hour before I gave birth was very, very intense for me. I was having to feel like I had to throw up again, but I had nothing in my system because I was only eating ice chips. But once the pain started getting so bad, I couldn't eat anymore. Eventually, the pain truly does get to where you can't talk. And I felt very surprised because I had the epidural. So I was like, I shouldn't be feeling this. Like, why am I in this much pain? So, they called the anesthesia guy back in, the one who couldn't do my epidural the first time. Luckily, the epidural was already in, so he just came to administer a higher dose and give me like a he called it a booster. I'm guessing it was like a shot of extra strength or something like that, but it was not helping. So I was constantly dry heaving, having to throw up. I was crying. I was literally telling the nurse, like, look, I have to poop so bad. That's what it felt like. It literally feels like you have to poop. Like, imagine you don't poop for days and then you have to poop so bad just all of a sudden. That's what it feels like. I just had to go to the bathroom so bad. I kept telling her, like, look, I need to push, I need to go to the bathroom, this is what I'm feeling, this is why I'm throwing up, I just need to go take a poop. And she's like, you know you can't take a poop because you might be pushing the baby out. So eventually she checked me again, and I had jumped from 6 centimeters to 9 centimeters within 30 minutes, you guys. Little did I know, and I didn't find this out until I came home from the hospital because Eli didn't want to tell me. He said he didn't want to stress me out. But the whole time I was feeling all of this pain, the nurse was actually jumping my medicine higher than the normal amount she was supposed to jump. So every time she would come into the room, I was so distracted by how much pain I was in, I wasn't even noticing that she was jumping the medicine, but she would be jumping it. So normally you're only excuse me, you're only supposed to jump the medicine 2 at a time. So, you know, you start off from 0, then you jump it to 2, jump it to 4, so much. But when she was coming in, she would jump it 4. So I was getting all of that medicine just so fast. She was coming in like probably every 30 minutes. I didn't know this at the time, that she was jumping it so fast, which was why I was feeling all the contractions like all of a sudden, because she was just jumping the medicine every time she came in, and she would jump it so high. So instead of jumping them 2, she was jumping them 4. So if I was at 14, she would jump me to 18 when she came back in, which, I mean, it got the job done, but at the same time, I feel like it was just a very rushed process, and it shouldn't have been, because I don't know, I just wasn't prepared for a rushed process. You know, nobody really talked me through like the process of inducting until it was the day of inducing, and it was just, I feel like it was a very rushed process. Like they just like really wanted to get that baby out quick. So eventually I was having so much pain. Like she was standing right there, and she was like, okay, well, we're gonna check you again and we'll see what the doctor says. So they checked me again. I was 9.5 centimeters. So what she did was she, you know, put her fingers in me, and she was just pushing like on one side of the cervix, because she said that there was only one side of the cervix that wasn't fully, you know, that was stopping me from being fully dilated. So she was just helping along. She was just rubbing up against that side to help it get fully dilated. And then I did get fully dilated. At this point, I think I passed out. Honestly, I literally must have passed out, because when I woke up again, I had the nurse on one side, Eli on the other side, and the doctor was sitting, you know, right in front of me like I'm about to give birth. And, you know, she was just, I think she was explaining the pushing process to me, and I thought she said we was going to do some practice pushes, like it was time to practice, you know, because normally, or at least in the videos I've watched, they've had the women practice pushing before that it's time for them to actually push. So I could have sworn she said we was doing practice pushes. So I would push, and then I would stop and just fall back and breathe, because when I tell you, I think I kept passing out because I did not know anything that was going on around me. I had no idea at this point that I was giving birth. I had no idea, no remembrance of her explaining to me how to push until like it was actually me supposed to be pushing, and I just kept stopping. So at this point, I was pushing. I could have been pushing for hours. I don't know. I don't think I was pushing for hours. I think I was pushing for like a couple minutes, like maybe 15-20 minutes. But at this point, I would push and they would be able to see the head. But because I wasn't aware of the fact that I was supposed to be pushing my baby out, I would stop. And so I would stop and breathe and fall back and just, you know, catch my breath. And so then she would just go back inside. So they kept trying to explain to me, oh no, you need to keep pushing, you know, when you're having a contraction, push through the contraction, and that's gonna help her come out. But I was like, I just wasn't there. When I tell you I wasn't there, I wasn't there. Like I was not there. You could have told me somebody else gave birth and I would believe you, because I was not there. So eventually I was like, you know what? I feel like I need to shit so bad. I'm just going to push, because it literally feels like poop is coming out. So we're just gonna push. So eventually I was pushing so hard, and what felt crazy to me was the fact that they was telling me, you know, don't breathe the whole time while you're pushing. But I could have sworn, like, you know, during the training classes I was watching, they say, oh, you know, breathe out while you're pushing, and then, you know, when it's time to take a break, breathe in, then keep breathing out. She was just telling me, no, hold your breath. Hold your breath the whole time. Don't breathe, because when you're breathing, you're allowing her to go back in. Your body's relaxing too much. So I eventually literally felt like I was dying. I felt like I was dying because of how much I was holding my breath, and I wasn't able to hold my breath that much because I was feeling all of this pain. I was feeling all of this pressure, and you know, at the same time, I have this big ass stomach. So I was like, how am I supposed to push this hard and hold my breath and not have to stop and breathe? Like, it just wasn't making sense to me. So at that point, I was just so ready to get this over with. I was like, you know what, just get her out. I was very blessed that I didn't have to get a C-section, because at first, before I started having contractions so bad, they were telling me that they thought I would have to get a C-section, that the baby would be out that night regardless whether I pushed her out or they had to take me to get a C-section. They was getting that baby out that night. So I was very blessed that me and Eli, we actually prayed, and then immediately after praying was when the contractions started, because I did not want to have to get a C-section at all. I didn't want to have to go through that. I wanted to have my baby naturally. I wanted to push her out, and I ended up doing that. So eventually when I was pushing, I just kept pushing. I was just pushing, not very well trained. So definitely take your classes, practice pushing beforehand. I was not very well trained. I just imagined I was on the toilet pushing out poop. So that's what I did. And I just held my breath so hard. I was probably red as fuck in the face. I was probably so red in the face. So I was just pushing so hard, and eventually I felt her come out. I didn't feel her head or anything coming out, but when she was all the way out, I felt it. It felt like sudden relief. Like if you had like a giant turd that was too big for your butthole, and you was pushing so hard to get it out, and it finally just dropped down. That is exactly what it felt like. And I felt so much relief that I literally just fell back. I didn't even acknowledge, like physically acknowledge, that she was out and she wasn't crying. I didn't acknowledge that. I was just like fell back. I think I passed out for a couple minutes. But the whole time in my head, I was thinking, oh, why isn't she crying? So then they put her on my chest, and the first thing I said was, oh, my baby, sweet baby, it's okay. And after that, she started crying a little bit. So a bunch of nurses came in out of nowhere. I just like opened my eyes, and they was in out of nowhere, and they was working on her, you know, getting her cleaned up and everything, I guess. And I think I passed out again. I must have passed out at least 6 times during this process. So because when I opened my eyes again, I was getting stitched up. Now, mind you, my doctor nor my nurses told me what type of tear I had. And to this day, I still don't know what type of tear I had. I have felt my stitches. They feel like they're not in correct places. I'm not gonna lie. It feels like my stitches are like not in places that you would tear when you give birth. Like they're not at the bottom, like in between your vagina and your butthole. They're like at the top, kind of like of my vagina hole. And also I had like stitches like kind of down below. I had stitches in 2 places, but nobody really told me what type of tear I had. I just knew that I tore because I got stitches. At least I'm hoping I tore. Unless she gave me that extra stitch, but I'm pretty sure she gave me some extra stitches because it felt very tight down there. So, what do I want to say? I woke up and I felt her giving me stitches. Now, I guess I still had the epidural. I just could feel the needle going in and out, in and out. I was just feeling that pokingness of it, and then I felt being pulled. You know, I just was feeling it. It didn't exactly hurt to the point where I was like in pain, but I could feel what she was doing. And I just looked over and I saw Eli with the baby sitting down. So I was like, oh, okay, my baby's fine. And my voice is so cracking. I have not talked this much in forever. I must have eventually like passed out again, because when I woke up again, it was time to go to the room where we would be for the next 3 days, and I immediately tried to get up and walk, and they were so taken aback that I did that. Me personally, I didn't feel in any way that I couldn't walk. I just like I literally just wanted to walk to the room. Like, I didn't feel in any way that I couldn't walk. I wasn't in any pain whatsoever. I didn't feel like I just gave birth. Literally, I didn't feel like I just gave birth. I was just hot. Had to pee, and I just was like, okay, let's get up, let's go to the room so I can get my baby. So they helped me get in the wheelchair, which again, I didn't feel like I needed help getting in the wheelchair. Rolled us down to our room, which was decent. And yeah, when we got to the room, the first thing I wanted to do and they wanted me to do was pee. And you know, she was like, we need to see, you know, if you can get up. I was immediately trying to just get up and walk to the bathroom, but they didn't want me to do that, so I had 2 nurses helping me to the bathroom. I felt like that was ridiculous, so they helped me to the bathroom and helped me get into a pad and everything, the whole setup. I'm going to do a different video on the postpartum essentials that I used. I feel like my postpartum was very different. I mean, I'm still postpartum. I'm only, what, 3 weeks postpartum? But I feel like my postpartum was very different because I never had any pain. Even though I had stitches, I never had any pain. Never. I didn't take any pain medicine after she was born. I was very up and walking around very fast. Like, immediately after giving birth, I was up and walking around. So, yeah. I feel like my postpartum was just very different. So I'm going to make a separate video about that. So if you like this video, I know it was a very long video. I'm not sure if I'm going to edit this or not, just because it's a very talkative video. And I feel like it'll be much more simpler if I just upload it like this, just put it together and upload it, because I did have to film 2 different parts. So if I just upload it like this, you guys will be able to understand it more, and I won't get frustrated trying to cut out all of the pauses, which there weren't many pauses. But yeah, so that is the full story of my labor and delivery. And if you have any comments, any questions, definitely leave them down below. Again, this was my first child, so I had never been through this process before, and due to the whole COVID and everything, I wasn't able to have my mom or anyone there to like fully help us understand if what was happening was supposed to be happening. So if you have any comments or any concerns, or you know, you just want to let me know like they wasn't supposed to do that, or it went all exactly how it should have been, then definitely comment down below. It will be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be soon because I've been uploading 2 times a week. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.